Hello, everyone. Very good morning. It's a pleasure to welcome you to another workshop in a virtual workshop series. I hope you've been keeping well and staying safe. The topic for today, Zoho for Remote People Management, and this workshop is powered by Zoho People. I'm John Wilford, an evangelist with Zoho, so is my colleague Anjana, and we will be your host for today. And just before we begin, ensure that you have signed into your Zoho account if you wish to mirror our actions, and you may need admin privilege to access certain features within Zoho People. And in case you wish to try something out, do not mess with any of the existing settings. Do create a test instance to get them right. Today's agenda is just going to be an introduction to Zoho People, followed by the hands-on session, which will be handled by Som. And finally, we'll have a quick recap before we wrap the session, and that will be by Anjana. That's it from me. Thank you all so much for your time and patience. Without further ado, let me welcome Som to take the session forward. Som, the virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, John. It was a beautiful intro, and I hope all you are safe and sound. And in this session, we're going to see about how to manage your workforce using Zoho People. I'm Somesh. I'll be the trainer for this particular session, and I also wanted to introduce my team, who will be handling with you questions, Mr. Stephen and Mrs. Sandhya, who will be. You can drop your queries in the questions tab, so obviously you would get the reply, or even you can drop an email to support@zohopeople.com. So based on your queries, we'll be able to reach out to you and assist you based on calls or emails or even chats. So the users who joined Zoho People right now, so I would give an heads up before joining. So definitely that should be giving a good understanding of what Zoho People is about. Zoho People is an HR management tool where you can remotely help your employees and probably track all your attendance of your employees as such. We were able to cater to 4,000 plus customers during this pandemic, and we were able to efficiently manage all the workforce without any problem. Using Zoho People, not just for enterprises, we do cater for every micro businesses as well as small businesses. If you got any doubts in the pricings, or if you wanted to probably view the features of Zoho People, please feel free to check the pricing plan. Mr. Stephen will be dropping you the message or the link in the chat, so probably you can refer to the pricing plans and the features. If you got any doubts, please reach out to us so we can help you with what pricing plan will be really helpful for you. And speaking of which, Zoho People is an application which gives you a complete understanding of how to manage your employees. So today's session, we're going to see about the primary three modules that you have to start with Zoho People. One will be employee management. Two will be leave tracker. Three will be the attendance tracker. So starting with employee management. So employee management is an primary task that you would do with Zoho People, which is really helpful, and it is the start that you would need to take with respect to Zoho People. Here, we're going to start with the employee management. Now, in the employee management, we're going to see about employee creation, employee database, user access control, and organizational reports. Employee creation is a part where you add an employee, and once after adding an employee, the employee database is where you provide employee details. Three will be providing, once you add an employee, added all details in the employees, you would be providing permissions to an employee, let it be manager, let it be a team member, or even a director. Based on the particular roles, you'll be providing permissions to an employee in your organization. And finally, you're going to see about organizational reports, that as an admin, you would know about what you have to probably see and what you have to look overview of how the organization is performing. So these are the four important pointers that we're going to see about employee management. Now, moving on to Zoho People, I would suggest you to log into your admin account or even a test account. Simultaneously try to work along with me, so that should give you a better understanding of how Zoho People is working. So here I have logged into my admin account. Just go to home. This is where you start Zoho People. So the moment you click on home, you can find something called dashboard, which gives you an overview of what is really happening in your organization today. If you see, there's someone who is celebrating their birthday, which is Sumita Wali, and you can also ping her and probably send her your wishes. And you can also see there are someone who are also already on leave. So these are reportees who have accepted, probably approved for a leave request for today. And obviously you can see all the reportees who are on leave for today. And you can also see other requests for approvals, as well as the attendance of yourself and announcements. In case if you got any big news for the company, you can find in the announcements. There are leave report, upcoming holidays. This should be really helpful for you to understand what is really happening in the organization on a day-to-day basis. So starting with adding users, the first important part would be the company details. Just click on settings in the top right hand corner. If you click on the settings, you can find the complete setup. These are the setups, and you start with company details. Okay, so if you see company details, this is how you start. You can add your logo if required, and also you can see email ID. If you see, this is a super administrator email ID. In this case, what would really happen is you can add the email address from which all the emails should be dropped to your employees, and the default from addresses. And you can also choose your country. Let's say you are from Australia, you can choose as Australia, or if you're in APAC region, you can have with respect to the APAC region as well. If you see here, right now, if I'm choosing something called Hong Kong, and I can also have different time zone as per my requirement. So I can change my time zone. Once I do that, automatically things will fall in place. All my time zone, all my attendance will be changed based on the APAC region. And also, if you wanted the display settings like first name, last name, which means that, let's say, whenever you search for an employee, you find the full name of an employee. That is the reason it is showing its display name. And you can find the date format and time format. So this is how we're going to import. I'm going to talk about most of the how to import process and how import is going to work in Zoho, because it is a primary aspect that you will need to understand while importing users as well. So you can just play around with the company details, which is the basic one. Once you start with company details, you jump right into adding users. There are two types of users. One is users as well as employee profiles. Users are the one who employees who have access to Zoho People. But if you see employee profiles, they do not have access to Zoho People, but still you can have the records of those employees. For example, if you I may call as maintenance employees, or even I could tell as security who work in your organization, they need not log into Zoho People on a day-to-day basis. But users, that is white collars, who need to log into Zoho People and they can raise requests as such, you can also make use of users. You can either play around with these two options, where employee profiles do not have access, where users do have access and they can play around with complete Zoho People applications. So here in users, you can see two types of adding users. One is adding user directly, and second is inviting users. Inviting user is a straightforward method. You can just give the employee ID, first name, last name, and the email address. Email address is really mandatory for users, but email address is an optional for employee profiles, as employee profiles do not need to log in. But in case of users, once you provide all these details, an invitation will be sent. If a user gets an invitation from our end, once the invitation is accepted, the user will be able to join the organization. This is the straightforward method. And the second one, which you see here, is add user directly. Add user directly is also similar to invite user, but you got additional control over your users, where you can send them your password as well as the email address to log in whenever required. There are two things to keep in mind. One, you can add a user and update the employee database, or update the employee database first and then add a user. Where this particular add user directly works in the second part, where you add a user and update the employee database and then send out the invitation to them based on your requirement on when they to join. So this is how it works. Add user directly comes up with a prerequisite side. If you see here, there's something called domains, and all my employees here do have domains associated to them. And also you can invite a user with other domain, which is not a problem, but which have domains. You can see here, once I click on domains, you can see domain which is verified. The people who have verified the domain can only see the users under add user directly. And right now, if you're under any trial account, you cannot see add user directly. You can just see invite user. That is because you have not verified your domain. Once you verify the domain, the system will automatically understand that your domain is verified, and you would finally get an option called add user directly. So, and I mentioned it, import process is an important process. throughout Zoho People. If you see, import makes your life easier. Let's say you are in a third party application right now for HR management, and if you wanted to move from a third party application to Zoho People, you would need to import. So in this case, imports plays a major role where you can import all your employee IDs. You can just import employee IDs and also make sure you find the sample template here. You just need to accumulate the data from your current system to Zoho People sample template. Once you update all the data in the sample template, you would be able to import into Zoho People without any problem. If you got any doubts, please feel free to drop us a message while importing, so we'll be able to help you as well. Here, we have an unique ID which is called employee ID. Once you import, automatically the import process will be taken care. And also make sure these are the three formats that we support, and any other formats will not be taken into consideration here. So once import is done, you got all your employees and all the invitations will be sent to your employees without any problem. So this is about adding user. The moment you add a user, the second part that you will need to keep an eye on is providing employee details. For here, I have provided multiple users. For example, I have invited this user, which is account status as invited, and you can find the employee status as inactive, and you can find the actions as recent invitations. But you can also see other users who are login enabled, who are active, who can access Zoho People. And you got options to flexible, that is, you can login disabled, which means that you can restrict a user from logging in. If you see here, this user is on the manager role. I can restrict the user from logging in. So which means I have disabled his login, so he cannot log in further. So also you can terminate the user based on your requirements. So the moment you terminate a user, automatically the login gets disabled. So speaking of which, the employee details, once you add a user, all the login is enabled, all the active employee status is updated. If you click on the user, you can find a variety of fields. These are the basic information field. These are segregated into multiple sections. Basic information, work section, and if you see, there is personal section as well as the summary and work experience. Initially, you have to start with basic information where you provide the employee ID, where you provide the last name and email ID, which is really mandatory. So once you provide basic information of a user and you jump right into the work, where you can update the department, which is really important. And in case if you have to provide the reporting to, who is the reporting manager, and what's the designation, that is the title. If you see here, I'm just giving an example where I can just click on member leadership staff or member technical staff, and you can also see all these are reflecting. And one more important option that you're going to see is date of joining. Date of joining plays a major role in leave tracker, which is the upcoming module that we're going to discuss. If date of joining is not updated, leave tracker cannot understand what's an employee is applicable to. So majorly, you have to update date of joining here. And employee status, if you see, there's something called active. Active employees are the ones who can log into Zoho People. If you see employee type, I can also update the employee type as permanent and click on submit. Why employee type, date of joining, and employee status are really important is because this plays a major role in processing your payroll. In case if you have Zoho People integrated with Zoho Payroll or other payroll applications, for processing your complete LOP report, these three fields are really important. Moving further, once you update all the employee details, the important part is user permissions, which is the role. Here you can see there's something called team member. There are multiple roles that we support, and you can also have additional roles from your end as well. So if you see, which I mentioned, user access control, you can find this user access control in settings. Click on settings, you can find roles, where you can see all the roles which are in Zoho People, and you can also have additional roles based on your requirements. Once you add a role, the role will be displaying in Zoho People. So here, I'm just showing the roles which I have and the employees who are associated to that role. In team member, which is the lower cadre role, which is if here, there are 24 employees who are there. Now, I can configure permissions based on roles. Here, I want to highlight a part where how Zoho People is built. Zoho People is an application that built over forms, which means it's a collation of forms together, put together, and it is how it has been handled in Zoho. You can see there's something called employee form. This is because the form that I was showing as basic information, work, summary, and personal informations are under a name called employee form. So you're gonna provide permissions to the employees or the role based on the permissions for this particular form. If you see here, there's multiple aspects, which is view, edit, add, and delete. There are only 5 types of permissions that you can provide to an form as well as to a role. I'll show you here. If you see, there's something called no data and something called my data, report is data, and report is plus my data, which means I can see no data in the employee form if you give permissions here. And if you give my data, that means only I can see my data in the employee form. Report is data, which means that I can, as a reporting manager, I can only see my report is data and not my data here. And here you can see report is plus my data. This you are including myself, that is, as a reporting manager, I can also see my data as well as the report is data. All data, irrespective of the roles, irrespective of the departments or even the location, I can see the entire organization's data without any problem. So this is like we do not have any restrictions to the view access or edit access. So you can just make sure that whichever roles do require such particular access, you can just make sure with respect to these permissions. Here you can see IT manager or manager. I have provided different roles such as reportees plus my data, which means a manager can view reportees plus data in the employee form. This is how we have to connect the dots. If you see, I'm repeating again. If you click on manager, manager can see reportees and his data in the employee form. And with respect to edit, the manager can edit reportees and his data in the employee form. So if you see these two fields are blocked, which means that this can be only accessed by the admin, and it also comes with a prerequisite. So managers do not have access to add a user or delete a user, so that is the reason they got access to view and edit alone. So speaking of which, you also got something called field permissions, which is much more in specific. If you see, if I click on this field permissions against manager, I can still provide permissions based on fields. Also, can you see here, there are multiple fields called current date, CTC, appraisal facilitator, and multi-select. All these things I have given as no data, which means the manager cannot see all these fields for any employees. Even though he got access to his reportees data, he cannot see any of these fields. And if you see, it's also provided all data, which means that manager can see all data permissions with respect to first name of other users without any problem. So this is how we can restrict an user permission in Zoho People post adding a user, and also make sure these roles are based on you can set only set permissions based on roles and not based on locations as such. As of now, this should give you an understanding of how to create a user, how to provide employee details, and how to provide permissions to a form as well as the role for the user. The final most thing which you're going to see in the employee management will be the reports. The moment you add an employee, you can find employee informations and the reports here. You can find in the left bottom corner. Click on that and you can find the dashboard. Clicking on the dashboard, you will find the complete overview of how your organization is performing. So here you can find the head count, that is like the employee addition rate, which is you can see the growth rate of the employees, and you can also see attrition rate. Here, the employee addition trend, how your employees have been added into your organization. And if you see here, one employee has been probably added into February and March, and one employee has left the organization on May. So this gives you an idea of how your employees are moving from one organization to different organization. So this is a diversification that you have in your organization with respect to designations, as well as department, as well as location as such. And you can find the gender gap that you see. So gender is female as well as male, and as well as the age gap you can see here. The experience of your employees. This dashboard gives you an idea of how your employees are diversified in your organization. This could give you a better understanding of how to approach new recruits in Zoho People. So there are multiple reports that you can see. If I click on organization reports, you can find head count, employee addition, distribution, diversity, as well as the experience wise. All these things put together you can find in the dashboard. Moving forward, you can also click on headcount, where you can see how things are being moved from first 2012 since the start of the organization till now, how many employees have been raised till now as such. You can also see the complete trend. And one more important thing that I would like to highlight in respect to reports is the filter option. If you see, this is the complete filter you see. This is the complete chart that you can see, but you can also see something called filter here. If you click on filter, you can find the period where you can also see how many employees have been recruited in the last 6 months. I think we'll be able to see how many employees have been recruited. If you see there one employee, and actually on a consolidated basis only two employees have been raised. So this is how it works. You can make use of the filter, try to play around with the reports, see how reports are reflecting for your organization. It should give you a complete view and how to take things further with respect to Zoho People. This is how you start with an employee management, and these are the primary pointers that I would like to highlight with respect to starting with Zoho People. So hope you will got an idea about employee management. Now you got 2 minutes of your time. Just take your time and try to work on how things are working with respect to employee management. Start your process right now and just go to users and settings and try to see what you'll be able to add. And if you got any questions, just drop your questions in the questions tab. Mr. Stephen will be able to help you with respect to your answers as well. And as well as he can share you the help guides for employee management and adding employees in Zoho People. Help guides are one of the easiest process where we support, where you can make use of it, where you can find the screenshot of those help guides, and it is like a step-by-step guide. You can go through employee profiles, employee adding, and employee users. This gives you an idea of how you can base your actual employee management in your organization. So to start with right now, just go to settings, just go to users, and you can find add user directly or invite user. For now, you can add invite user. Once you invite a user, you will be able to give the employee ID, the last name, first name, as well as the email address. Always make use of your personal email address to test, because testing is really important before involving all your official accounts. So this is a tip that I would like to give, because testing with your personal email address, you can play around with multiple email address, that is not a problem. But using your official email address, then it would create a problem where it might have created an account in Zoho and you might not add into multiple accounts. So always make use of your personal account or a test email address. So that should give you a better understanding of how people are what to explore in Zoho People. Hope you got an idea of how employee management works. And the second most important part that I would like to cover will be the leave management. Compared to employee management, leave management is quite complex, and you have to understand the concepts in how Zoho People works with respect to leave policies. Many organizations do have different types of leave policies. You will need to understand how leave management works in Zoho People to accommodate your own leave policy in Zoho. So now, today we're going to see about leave configuration and settings. The second one will be data operations. That is like once you configure the leave, how to send the approvals to your Zoho People. That is like how you send the approvals to a reporting manager as well as the above cadre or director as such. And leave service, how to apply leave and leave reports finally. So jumping into leave reports again, or leave tracker, you can find, you can come back to Zoho People. You can find the leave tracker in the left hand side. If you do not find leave tracker on the left hand side, you can always click on services in the top. Once you click on services, you can find all the modules, all the services that are available in your organization. You can just click on leave tracker. Once you click on leave tracker, you can find the list view and all the views that you have. And one most important thing that I would like to highlight is always start your modules from settings. Settings is the part that you will need to understand. 90% of the time, whatever you configure in the settings will be reflecting in the views. So settings is really important. And under settings, there are three modules that you will need to look into, which is leave type, customized policy, customized balance, which comes really important, which plays an important role whenever you configure a leave type or a leave tracker in for your employees. So here, let me start with adding a leave type. I have added a leave type for Hong Kong, which is called annual leave type. If you edit this leave type right now, I'm just showing you how to edit or add the leave type. Give the name of the leave type, give the code of the leave type. Let's say it's AL for now. AL, and you got the paid leave type. Got four types of leave type, which is paid, unpaid, on duty leave types, as well as restricted holiday leave type. So here you can see unit, which is like days or hours, and you can also find balance based on fixes entitlement. So here, the most important part that I would like to highlight in terms of leave type is the validity. Validity is where from when this leave type is applicable for your employees. So if you see, I have given as 1st of September 2020, which means this is the day the organization has been started and proper leave policy has been revised for the organization. So from then, I have given all the employees to be applicable for this annual leave type. You can also have a calendar year. Basically, most of the organization do have a calendar year. For example, 1st of Jan, you can have 1st of Jan. From 1st of Jan, this particular leave type should be applicable for all your organization, or for all your employees, or to a specific type of employees. To field is not mandatory, because you might not know till when this leave type or leave policy will be applicable for that employee. So in leave types, three important things that you need to understand is entitlement, two is applicability, three is restrictions. Entitlement is an important part which you start, where let me go by one. If you see effective after 0 years from date of joining, which means that it is effective right from the date of joining, which means annual leave is applicable for an employee who joins immediately. Do you remember that I was speaking about date of joining field while doing employee details? That means date of joining, based on the date of joining, your actual leave type will be applicable for the employees. So likewise, if you see the employee have a probation period, I've give 6 months from the date of joining. That means once after the probation period of 6 months or 3 months, this particular leave type will be applicable for that employee. That is why it is mentioned as effective after 6 months from date of joining. And below that, you can see accrual as well as reset. Accrual is what you grant leave. Reset is called when you want to lapse this particular leave. So here, if you see, there are different timelines of frequency of leave that you can grant. If you see one time, yearly, accrual, monthly accrual, half yearly, or triannually, you can just try with multiple levels. You can just play around with it. Right now, I'm just trying to show you with respect to yearly. So yearly, 1st of Jan, number of days I credit is 12 days for the employee, and this 12 days will get lapsed on last day of December. That means all the leaves get to zero on last day of December. In case if you wanted to carry forward the leave, you can, let's say 50% of the 50% of the leave should be carry forwarded. You can just have 50%, and the maximum limit also you can set, which is 6 days. Let's say it is equal to 6 or less than 6, all the leaves get carry forwarded to the next financial year or the calendar year. So based on this carry forward, all the leaves get accumulated for your employees. And one more important aspect that you will need to look into leave entitlement will be prorate accrual. Prorate accrual, let's say I'm joining in mid-year. So when I join in the mid-year, I should not be applicable for 12 days of leave. Instead, I should be applicable just for 6 days. For example, if I join on June or July, only 6 days should be applicable for me. So if you're not providing prorate accrual, in this case, you will need to definitely provide. And if you're not providing prorate accrual, all the 12 days get accumulated for them. And you also got an option to do not prorate, which means even on employee joins on December 29, he will be applicable for 12 days, and he'll also get 6%, that is like 6 days carry forwarding to the next financial year. So this means that you have to restrict your employees from accumulating more leaves than what they actually needed. So that is why we provide prorate accrual and start and end of policy. Based on this should work perfectly fine. The second one that you will look is applicability. Not all employees will go through every leave types. Let's say your senior management might have a different set of leave types, as different leave balances as well as there might be a general leave type for every organization, or even you can have for every employees in the organization. So here you can see I have applied this annual leave type for all my employees. But in case if you come up with, no, I would need to provide this leave type to a specific employee, you can choose that specific employee too. So here you can choose the employee, and you can make sure this employee is applicable for that leave type. So apart from these two employees, no other employees will be able to see this particular leave type. So this is how the flexibility that you can make use of it, more specific in nature in applicable all the leave types. So here you can also see if you wanted to update this particular leave type to a specific location of employees, instead of all employees, you can just choose location, choose Chennai or even San Francisco based on your requirement. Or if you have any roles, you can also provide roles as, let's say, team member. That is like team member who is in San Francisco will be applying for this particular leave type, and no other members other than the team member role will not be able to apply for this leave type. So this is how it works with respect to applicability. Restrictions is pretty much easy to understand. If you see here, the most important part in restriction would be while applying leave type, do you need to exceed balance? That is like if I have 10 days or 12 days in my leave card, so if I need to probably have 14 days, in that case, if I allow my employees to take without limits. The employee might got even 30 days of leave types as well, or leave balances. But if we do not allow them, what would really happen is like it would restrict with respect to 12 days alone, and based on that, it will not take your employees apart from that. So here you can find durations allowed as well. Your employees can take full day of annual leave or even half day. You can also restrict quarter day and hourly restrictions as well. So once you uncheck this, the employees can take only zero point 0.5 days and 1 day as durations. You can just play around with the restrictions, and restrictions are pretty self-explanatory and it will be easy to understand. So once you add your leave type, and all the three modules or three aspects of the leave type has been updated, you can just click on submit. Once you submit, you can find the annual leave type reflecting in all your employees portal. So here, the second one that I would like to highlight will be the customized policy. Customized policy is where you can customize a specific policy to an employee, and it would be, as I mentioned, annual leave for Hong Kong. It was completely different for general settings, but here I'm customized. That is why it is showing as customized and annual leave. But if you see for other employees, it would not show as customized. This will show a general policy. For Terry, he is a normal employee. You can see this is how we have configured. We have provided 12 days, we have provided yearly basis, as well as last day will be the lapse of all the leave types. So here, with respect to myself, I have customized the leave type. I can have multiple policies under a single leave type as well. So here I have given 19 days, and here I have given 12 days. So it's like based on my customization, based on your senior management or a specific employee, so you would be able to update this particular customization. And one more important factor that I would like to highlight here with respect to annual leave will be history. So once you got a doubt that your leave balances are off, or you got some other leave balances as such, you can find all the history here. When it was credited, it was credited 1st of Jan. 12 days has been credited to the employee's account. The leave was taken by the employee, and it will show you what the date as well. So this should give you a clear explanation of how the leave balances has been deducted from the employee's account. So in case if you do any manual correction, which means you customize balance for that employee, you can find manual corrections here, and you can also see who has done the correction as well. So that should give you an idea of who has made corrections in respect to an employee or the leave balances. This would come in handy when there are multiple admins in a specific organization. So customization of leaves, as I spoke about customization policy, which means you can customize the policy, but instead of customizing the policy, you can also customize the direct balance here, which is that it is called as customized balance. Here you can see there are multiple leave types that I've applied to a specific employee. So right now, let's say I click on myself. I see the leave types applicable for me. There are different combination and permutations that you could try with a leave type, and you can explore all the combinations like I mentioned earlier, like the frequency, the accrual. So based on which you can have monthly monthly accrual of leaves as well as yearly accrual of leaves. That should give you a better explanation, or that should give you a better understanding, I would say. So here, let's say annual leave. I wanted to probably change this annual leave from 10 leave balances to 6. This is the new leave balance. That is why it's showing as new leave balance and existing balance as on date, which means as on 14th of July, I have 10 as my leave balances. But as I feel this is incorrect, I can change this to 6, and I'm just giving a note called manual correction if required, just as manual for now. Once I click on submit, immediately my annual leave has been changed from 10 to 6. So once I change this, automatically it will also reflect in my history. So that is why I always said that history is really important to understand and how to decode what is really happening. Here you can see I have given as manual, and you can see 4 have used, which means that I just have 6 balance. So this is how manual corrections has been done, or customizing balance. As I mentioned, import process is really important in case of employee adding, as well as it also plays a bigger role in customizing your balance. Whenever you switch from a third party to Zoho People, you might come up with an additional balance or remaining balance of your employees. So here you got an option to 3 dots, click on this to import. Once you click on import, you would find the sample template here, the employee ID, the leave type, and the new balances and what type of leaves. So based on your dates, you can update all the employees who have remaining balances on particular leave type. And if you have got 100 more employees as such, you can just update in an Excel sheet and import directly into Zoho People without any problem. Once you import, automatically all your employees get the leave applicability as well as the leave balances reconciled. So these are the three modules that you would need to look into. And the fourth one that I would like to highlight with respect to settings is the pay period settings. Here, pay period is really important to process your payroll. In case if you have integrated with Zoho payroll, or do you wanted to run an LOP and share the LOP report to your finance team to process the complete payroll, you can make use of the pay period settings. Pay period settings for my organization have provided as monthly. First till the last day of every month is a pay period cycle, and payroll processing day will be the last day of the month, or if you see here, payroll report generation day will be the last day. After configuring this, you'll get a summary which gives you an idea of what will really happen in your organization based on the pay period. So here, the current pay period cycle is 1st of July to 31st of July, and the LOP report and the overtime report will be generated or processed on 31st of July at 11:59 p.m. So before that, you cannot expect this report to be reconciled because all the actual pay period should be completed. Once the pay period is completed, the system will understand or collect all the details from the employees, and then it will process the report for yourself. And once that's done, you would be able to process the payroll based on the report generated. So pay period is really important. So once you provide pay period, and one more important task that I would like to highlight is module administrator. Module administrator is what you would need to probably look into. Let's say if you have 1,000+ employees in your organization, and there might be employees who need to look into leave requests as such. You can have, instead of one admin accessing the complete module, you can provide module administrators, or let's say multi-level administrators as such, which means you might be the super admin, and there might be few admins who would be module administrators, so they can take care of the particular leave request, or even handling the customer or probably employee request with respect to leave modules without any problem. So that is why module administrators will play an important role. So speaking of settings, once you configure all the settings, you can find all the settings or probably all the details in your list view, and you can find annual leave, all the leaves applicable for a specific employee. If you see here, if I choose myself, I can find the available leave. As this was already customized, I can see my balance actually. If I click on from, if I give my date, automatically I can see what's the balance available, and you can provide what leave type you wanted, and you can also provide whether it is hourly or day basis. So in case of hourly, how many hours as such, give the team email ID if required, reason for leave, and you can submit. Once you submit, it would go for an approval, and the approval will be showing as approval pending. Approval plays an important role when it comes to leave request. So as I mentioned, the automation that we have to look into. So if you see here, so I've just raised a request for an employee called Arthur, and for annual leave, this is his balance. So here you can find an approval which has been sent. So now I'm just clicking on settings. I'm just showing how to configure an approval. Clicking on settings, clicking on approvals. And if you see, as I mentioned, Zoho People is a collection of forms. If you got too many forms, if you got too many approvals, you need not get confused. Just click on the form, click on the leave form that we are looking for. Once you do that, there are multiple approvals that I have created under leave, and the active approval is only one approval, which is the leave approval. Just click on that. Now you can see the 3 levels of approvals that I have set. So that is how it works. Whatever approval levels you set, that is how it will reach out to the actual reporting manager and the employees as such. So approval is a 3-step process. I'll show you, this is the approval, this is how it's going to work, this is how I have set. Now I'll show you how to add a new approval. So clicking on add approval, once you add approval, it is a leave form, give the name of the approval. Once you give the name of the approval, if it's applicable for the complete organization, if this approval goes for all the leaves in your organization, you can set, you need not set criteria, you can ignore the criteria and go back to configure approval. If you click on configure approval, automatically the first one would be the immediate reporting manager. And if you want to send the leave request to the immediate reporting manager, you can just leave it like this. And configuring email template, we do have default template supporting leave requests, so automatically all things will fall in place, and you can just save it. You need not create or edit templates if it's not necessary. If it's required, if you wanted to make sure you add your logo, or probably if you wanted to add your image as such, you can just go ahead and probably edit the template as per your requirement. Apart from that, this is a 3-step process, and this is a straightforward process with respect to approvals. So as you see, there was 3 levels. That is why you were able to see in my particular leave application, there was, when I clicked on approval pending, you got 3 levels: level 1, level 2, and level 3, and the pending approval is still there. And as an admin, I can approve all the levels I can approve all the levels irrespective on behalf of the actual employee. Once it is approved, this particular leave type will be, or leave request will be approved from our end. So once it's approved, all the leave types, all the leave applications can be seen. Cancel leave request can be seen, whether it's still pending can be seen, or even rejected can be seen. So this is how we're going to see all the leave applications raised in your organization from an admin perspective. So they're also called holidays. Holidays is where you provide calendar days or calendar holidays, public holidays in your organization. You can directly click on add, click on the holiday name, date, and applicable for. You can provide with respect to locations or shifts. And also you can see here, notify your employees. Once you add your holidays, automatically it get assigned to your employees. And if you see, I got only 4 holidays which is applicable for me, click on filter. If you see applicable for me, that means I can only see 4 holidays, but applicable for the entire organization, I can see additional holidays as well. You see here, I can see New Year holiday, which is applicable for the location, Chennai as well as San Francisco, and Christmas, if you see, it is applicable for only US shift and APAC as well. So based on shifts, you can change this. Let's say I'm just editing this. I'm just changing it to APAC shift right now. I'm just clicking shifts. I'm just clicking on APAC and click on submit, which means that the people under the APAC shift will be applicable for the Christmas holidays as well. So this is how a leave type will be configured. You can manage your leave types in Zoho. You can add your leave type, customize the balance if required. And once you customize the balance, you can provide approvals for the leave types. And also you can also apply leave from the list view here. So once it is applicable, automatically all the leave types will be seen. Once leave types seen, you can probably go ahead with respect to the applying of the leaves without any problem. As an admin, you would be able to apply leave on behalf of your employees without any problem. And all the leave requests raised by your employees will be seen in the leave applications. This is the complete summary of leave management. And finally, we're going to see about the reports. Here, click on reports in the left bottom corner. Once you click on reports, you can find the leave tracker where you can find all the reports. So here you can find resource availability report, which is really important to find or probably know who is available on a particular date. Here you can find all the dates, which is loss of pay if the employees are absent, or if employees on leave, you can find the employees on leave on 14th of July, or if they are on leave on 13th, you can find who is available and who is not. And there are multiple aspects that you can make use of it. And also, as I mentioned earlier, filter plays an important role. Click on filter. You can choose the from date as per your requirement, or choose the employee status if you wanted, or even choose the location as per your requirement. Let's say I choose people who are in Chennai, should be the one in this report. If I click on this and click on submit, I can see all the employees in Chennai, or even the designation voice. You can change this. You can find member technical staff, and also you can click on designation and click on submit. So this is how it's going to work. And once this is generated, you can click on the 3 dots. You can export the report based on your requirements. There are other reports which you see is loss of pay details, leave data for payroll, which means that all the data which will be generated based on the pay period. That is a major reason that I mentioned pay period settings is really important. So if you see here, there is absent, unpaid, and total leaves and loss of pay for employees. So based on this will be processed for your salary. So this is how it's going to work. You can just try to play around with the reports too. As you know, once you configure the leave tracker, all the applications are probably raised. You would be able to probably see the leave tracker or the leave types reflecting in your employees. So that is how you can start. And you can also see who are on leave for today. If you see here, this is the leave status for today, and it is approved. And there's one person who is still pending, who have not approved for compensatory off for today. So you can get a complete view on how reports are working once you start exploring with your organization. The third important one that we're going to see, the final most important one. If you see, before that, I would suggest you to take a minute or two, try to work on how leave tracker works. Just start with the leave types. Just go to leave type and try to create a leave type, give the entitlement for your organizations. And if you got any doubts, just drop a message in the questions tab. Mr. Stephen and Sandhya would be able to help you with respect to that. So initially, as I mentioned, just give an entitlement, try to provide the details for your employees, try to provide the applicability, or initially you start with the applicability just for you. Just instead of all employees in the employee field in the applicability with respect to leave type, just give your name, which means that you are just experimenting with yourself and not with all other employees. So Leave type should give you a better idea of how to start, how to configure, and while exploring multiple combinations and permutations, you would know how the leave balances have been accrued for an employee, as well as how it is seen in the view history. As I mentioned, customized policy plays an important role. Just check in the customized policy from when the leaves are being accrued for your particular account. So that should give you an idea of how the leaves are accrued, how the leaves are granted, and what are the leave taken and how it has been splitted towards the end of the year. That is how leave types and leave tracker works. If you got any other doubts post this session, please feel to drop a message to support@zohopeople.com. So we'll be happy to help from the time of which you will be able to get a response within the first 24 to 48 hours. Hope leave tracker would have been understandable. The next final most topic that we're going to see is attendance management. Attendance management is pretty straightforward product, or probably the module that I would say. One, here you can configure the attendance directly. Two, adding a shift for your employees, let's say APAC shift as such. Three, how to apply for attendance check-in and check-out. Three would be the fourth will be the attendance management or attendance reports. So going back to Zoho People, here coming back to home, you can click on services, or you can find attendance here. Once you click on attendance, you will get to that list view where you can find all the buttons that you have, whether you wanted to check in, check out, you got break, you got what shift you are in actually, and what regularization is about. As I mentioned, always start your model with respect to settings. You have to click on settings, go with general settings. General settings and user specific settings are pretty similar, but if you see user specific settings, as the name suggests, it's much more in specific to a user. General settings gives to a complete organization, but still you can restrict or probably give much more restrictions or strict mode of working hours to users in respect to user specific settings. So here you can see minimum hours required for the day, which is the working hours. If I give as full day 7 hours and half day, the employee must work 7 hours to complete full day. The employee must work half day to complete 4 hours. So once they complete 4 hours, they will be marked as half day. So even if the employee completes just 3 hours and 59 minutes, it would calculate as absent. And if the employee completes 6 hours and 59 minutes, it will be marked as half day. Instead of this is how the complete strict mode works. There are two types. One is strict mode and lenient mode. Lenient mode just looks for how many hours a day they need to work. This is just a lenient mode. This does not mark any absent as such. But in case of strict mode, definitely the employee should work for 7 hours or 4 hours based on the actual shift hours that they have. So here, the most important one that I would like to highlight will be the permissions. If your employees are working on remote, permissions are really important, where you can see web check-in and web checkout and mobile check-in and mobile checkout. We do provide a mobile application for iOS as well as the Android mobiles. You can find that in Play Store as well as the Apple Store. So once you are using mobile, you would be able to log in from the mobile application itself. That will be pretty handy for the sales personals, and web check-in can be used for people who use laptops, and this might be normal for everyone. So you can enable them through, as we are working through the pandemic, so they need not log into a campus as such. They can directly log in from the web application, check in on that particular web application, and track the complete working hours for that employee. So we can also have additional thing called capture and save photo, which means that the admin will know whether is the employee has been checked in or checked out, or is there someone else who have done behalf of him. So this is why we use capture and save photo. And one more important option, which is make location sharing mandatory. This gives you a flexibility of getting the location of the employees by logging in from web check-in and web checkout. So you would definitely know whether the employee is working in a specific region. So this gives you an idea of this. Particularly location sharing will work seamlessly for sales personnel, because they might be working in different locations, they might be traveling from one place to other. So sharing their location to the reporting manager or the actual admin will give you an idea of where the particular employee is at that particular time. So while checking, so that should be really helpful. There are other permissions that you could explore, like shift settings as such. You can allow your employees to view the shift mapping, edit the shift mapping as such, and these are pretty straightforward settings. In case if you wanted to alert your employees, you have to log in at this particular time as such, you can make use of the shift reminder. That is like you can send a reminder 1 minute before the shift start time as well as end time, so they can either check in or check out. So it's just an information you're notifying your employees to log in without forgetting that. So if you see all these actual settings, it is self-explanatory. And as well, if you see regularization settings, if the employees are on duty and forgot to check in or check out, definitely regularization plays an important role. So you can enable regularization for your employees, and you can also have multiple reasons. That means you can also have something called on duty. So let's say here I'm giving as a reason for on duty, and I'm clicking on submit. The moment I do that, I would be able to add the details. So automatically all the reasons got added for the regularization. And user specific settings is also similar to what you see in general settings with an additional option called grace period settings. So if you enable grace period, you can find whether the user is late by 5 minutes or 10 minutes, automatically 0.5 days will be deducted from the annual leave type. So I can also change the leave type whichever I required, or I can also mark the absent. Let's say, for example, I give a threshold of probably a soft limit of 3 per week, which means that if the employee checks in 30 minutes, probably I'll give you as employee checked in late by 1 hour, what would really happen is if there is no threshold or no there is soft limit, automatically it will deduct 0.5 days from the annual leave, which means this is how we can restrict an employee and ask them to log in early or probably log in on time. So that is how grace period policy works. This is an additional feature that you can see in usership settings, but in the general settings, you need not see grace period policy. And if you also see here, there's something called shifts and users. You can also mark this particular settings to a specific user as well. So this is like specifically you are marking this to a, let's say, for example, support team should be on time. In that case, you can mark only the support team as well. So you can choose the employees in the support team. Automatically, they would go under this particular grace period policies. So this is how user specific settings works. And you can also see permissions in case if your employee wanted to go out for probably take a time away from the work. In that case, you can give permissions for them as 1 or 2 hours. So this is how permissions works. And you can see user ID mapping. This is mapped based on the biometric mission. If you have a biometric mission in your organization, you can use user ID mapping. Based on that, all the users, whenever they give the fingerprint or a punch in, automatically the attendance will be pushed to Zoho People. You can also see the pay period settings, as I mentioned, is the same settings as you see in Leave Tracker, but additional one, which will be IP restrictions and Geo Restrictions. If you want your employees to log into the IP address and then access the modules, access specific modules, which is the time tracker, which is the files of your organization, as well as the attendance, you can probably restrict your employees to a specific IP, and you can also talk to your IT team to get the IP address as well. So once you do that, automatically, once the employees logs into this particular IP address, that's when they can access these three modules. This also comes up with geo restrictions, which plays an important role for the sales personnel. If an employee working in a specific region, you can always provide with respect to geo restrictions. If you see here, I have something called add geo restriction. Once I click on add geo restrictions, so you can see it will ask me for a location, for my location. Once I click on allow, automatically it would take to my location. And also you can mark the actual geo fencing. If you see here, I can mark the fence, and based on this, it would work perfectly fine. So based on whatever location or restriction that you provide or whatever fencing that you have, so once you do this, automatically all the details are probably based on the particular geofencing, your employees can log in and log out. It's same as IP address, but only the person should log in if it is applicable or probably situated in that particular location. So this would definitely ask for a location sharing. So based on that, the employees can log in. So this is how geo restriction works, and module administrators is same as what I mentioned in the earlier in the leave tracker. So apart from settings, as I mentioned, the self-service, which is leaves, you can click on the views where you can check out and check in. As I see here, if I click on checkout, it will ask for my location. If I do not give my location, it will not allow me to probably check out because of I have given as make location as mandatory. So now the employees should check out or check in based on their requirements. And also the one important part that I would like to mention here will be the shift schedule. So you can add multiple shifts. If you see here, I've added multiple shifts for all my employees because the organization is global. So if you see UK shift, US shift, APAC shift, so here I'm just showing you how to add in shift. Right now I have created an Apex shift where you see 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is the actual timing that I have. And also I have defined a weekend for when is the weekend for Apex shift employees. You can give Sundays and Saturdays. If you got any shift allowance for the employees, you can give shift allowance. If not, you can just leave them aside. Applicable for is not mandatory to probably to fill. I'll give you an idea of how to assign this particular shift to an employees or specifically to an M group of employees. This is how you can edit or add a shift in Zoho People. Once you add a shift, this is how you need to assign a shift. That is called employee shift mapping. So here you can see few employees who are already a part of APAC shifts. So I wanted to change an employee from UK shift to an APAC shift. I can just click on an employee. I can just click on UK shift. I can change it to APAC shift directly here, or else I can also go ahead with respect to APAC employees, change this from 16th. And if I do not know what date it is, I can just go ahead. I can click on submit. This gives you an idea of what's the employee's existing shift. That is like employees in UK shift, and he'll be changed to APAC shift on 16th of June. So this is how it's gonna work. If you click on submit, automatically the employee will be updated. You see all the employees, which is APAC shift right now, Arthur Williams. So, and it has been modified on today right now at 9:29 a.m. So this is how you need to assign a shift to an employees. Shift calendar, you see all the complete details of how the employees have been located or probably applied for that particular shift. You can see the complete overview and what shifts they are in. In the yellows are marked as APAC shift, people who are in APAC shifts as such. So this gives you an overview of what your employees are working on. So based on this, you can provide or change the shifts to your employees. Break. So in case if you wanted the employees to probably give break, which is an unpaid break as such, you can also add a break. And based on this breaks, the employee can take the break between 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. So here, coming back to list view. So as I mentioned, the break has been given. You can add a break, and it has been allowed only around the time range of 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. You cannot take breaks apart from that. You can also give breaks. You can allow breaks as such, and you can see what the actual break timing is all about. So this is how it's gonna work. This is how we provide check-in or check-out. If I click on check-out, I'm just gonna need to provide the location. Always make sure allow location. Just click on checkout, allow location. Once I allow location, I'd be able to check out from this particular shift. If you see here, it would take my location here. I have checked into web and checked out through web. So my checked in locate time is around 7:52 a.m. and checked out at 9:30 a.m. So you can also make use of the map to locate your actual location as well. So this is how you check in and check out. And finally, we're gonna see about the reports here in attendance. It's similar to what we saw in leave tracker. So here the daily attendance entries, the most important one which you see here, employee present and absent status. If you see all the employees who have been present and absent will be seen here. All the day basis and hour basis can be used. If you see employees have been working overtime or deviated, or if you see even today have been working for 7 hours, which is present, and overtime, which is 16 hours. So you can see the complete details. As I mentioned earlier in the previous reports, you can find filter and make use of it, whichever required. In case you wanted to choose only one employee, you can choose the employee and find what's the actual working time of that particular employee. So this should give you a better understanding with respect to reports. And same as overtime details, in case if you wanted to see who the employees have been working overtime, click on overtime details, and how many hours they have been working on also will be calculated here. So you can just play around with the reports and try to work on how reports have been reflecting. Just take a minute or two to work with respect to attendance tracker and see how attendance tracker is working, and just try to add shifts. As of now, you can just try to add shifts and see how the shifts have been reflecting in Zoho People. Once that is working fine, it should be, you can assign that particular shift to all the employees. Just go to attendance tracker and click on settings, as settings should be the first one you have to start with. And once you click on settings, you can find general settings. Just try to see about permissions, because permissions is where provide you web check-in and web checkout. And also you can assign that particular permission in the user specific settings to a set of users as well. So when you do that, you would know how you can remotely assist your employees as well as track the attendance of your employees. So as we are in mid of a pandemic, so this attendance tracker plays a very important role. So trust me, there are 4,000 plus customers who are using Zoho Zoho People in during this pandemic, and attendance have been an important factor for them. And configuring the settings for them will be really easy with respect to attendance. As I mentioned, compared to leave management, attendance management is straightforward, and you just need to add shifts, give permissions, and right away, once you assign the shifts, the employees are on their particular attendance tracker. So they can check in and check out based on their requirement, and it should work perfectly fine. Hope you got an idea about the attendance. The last but not the least, I would like to highlight one more important tip that I would like to give here. If you got to reach the customer support, you can always click on the profile picture in the top right hand corner. You can see customer contact support here. Once you click on contact support, you will get a pop-up with respect to what details you wanted to provide. Give the subject, tell us more about what's the problem you're facing or what the difficulty or what requirements you have. Just give us an idea of what you're looking for. Give us a number to contact, as well as give us what priority, whether it's a critical request or it is okay, I can take some time on the particular request. Just give us an idea of what is actually mean to you. Once you send the request, we'll be able to reach out to you within next 24 to 48 hours. So it was nice interacting with you people on this particular session. Hope it was really helpful for you, and have a great day and be safe. Thank you so much, and handing over the session to Anjana.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. So I'm pretty sure everybody would have found this session pretty useful. So I'm just going to jumping into my slide, guys. So in today's session, he spoke about the employee leave and attendance management, and we also have given a couple of activities as well. So please make sure you can try during your leisure time as well. Well, if nothing pops as well, not a problem at all. As Som emphasized, you can also email us at support@zohopeople.com. We are available 24/5 as well. So some exciting news. We have a team as well available in your respective countries as well. So feel free to email these guys at apac-info@zohocorp.com as well. They're available anytime. So once again, on behalf of Zoho team, I take this opportunity to say thank you so much for your time. Please make sure you stay safe, take care, stay at home. Thank you so much.